Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Wheel of Albums. Along with my brother Admin, our friend Jack, I am Justin. What we do here on Wheel of Albums is we spin a wheel of the 1001 albums you must hear before you die from Robert Dimery's book with the same title. Then we listen to that album at least 3 times in a week. We get back to you and we let you know if we think it's an album you must hear before you die. This week, Adam or Jack, I'm not even sure anymore. Somebody spun the wheel and got the Kinks, 1967 effort, Something Else by the Kinks. All right, for the record, it was Adam who spun Something Else by the Kinks. I have a copy of Something Else by the Kinks that I cannot locate at the moment. Maybe I got a download of Something Else by the Kinks in the e-music days. This begins a period of the Kinks where they get away from their early kind of garage rock type vibe. There is a 4-year period of the Kinks that is very interesting to get into. These years were not big hit years here in America for the Kinks. I don't know if you would start with this or with the album before this, Face to Face, but it goes on through the end of the 60s. Wasn't anticipating to be on the wheel, but here it is, and so we listen. Jack, how's it going today?
I know what the Kinks bring. They are cheeky, if you will. They are the Replacements about 20 years before the Replacements decided how to cut their own throats and step on their own feet on their way to stardom. And there wasn't a hand that fed them that they never liked to bite. So I was figuring I was going to enjoy this ride. Something Else by the Kinks.
I could honestly say when I spun the wheel and saw this that I was pumped to get to listen to a Kinks album. One of my favorites by them. I've heard it once or twice before and do that while enjoying some tea and crumpets and letting Ray Davies teach me about British life. You know, in the late 60s, the Kinks were banned from touring in America, and it almost feels like on this album they said, screw it, we're just going to embrace Britain and we're going to talk about British life and our upbringing. To be honest, Something Else. They definitely, while all the other bands were chasing stardom in the U.S. because the Kinks had been banned, they just said, all right, let's do this. And they offered Something Else up.
Yeah, the summer of 67, the summer of love is what it's always known as. Sgt. Pepper's, The Doors debut, Are You Experienced by Hendrix, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn by Pink Floyd. All this embrace psychedelia. And when you put Something Else by the Kinks against those, at first it's kind of off-putting. How does this even match in?
This is a more British approach and probably wasn't targeted to the American audience. The couple times that the Kinks hit before 1967, it didn't seem to strike into that vein.
To me, a big fan of The Cure that I am, when they released the 13th off of Wild Mood Swings, which I actually like that song, in 1996, did not fit in what was going on at the time as far as grunge and post-grunge and alternative rock doing a mariachi song. And I kind of compare that in a way to the whole feeling of Something Else by the Kinks compared to their contemporaries at the time.
I'm going to go with the most British will be Harry Rag, even though the subject matter of being addicted and failing to conquer your demons is pretty international. The term Harry Rag, I think, is a slang on a slang of British cigarettes. So let's go with that.
Quick Harry Rag story. When I first listened to Something Else, this was probably about 8 years ago. My oldest daughter, Emmeline, was 2 years old, and I kind of fell in love with the song Harry Rag, and I was playing it a lot, definitely in the car. And when it would come on, she would sing in her sweet little 2-year-old voice, Harry Rag, Harry Rag. Quickly realized maybe I shouldn't be playing this around a 2-year-old.
But she learned about the dangers of smoking through Ray Davies' wit. So Jack's going with Harry Rag as the most British-esque song. Adam, what do you got for yours?
Ray Davies does a great job of making you feel like you're in a small English town on a lot of these songs. I'm going to say Harry Rag. I think pound for pound, it feels like the most British thing on the album, at least to me.
I'll give 2 points to Afternoon Tea. That's my favorite. Reminds me of the one time me and Amy visited London, and it was tea time, and we're in a restaurant. I got a beer, a Kronenberg. Well, you get some looks when you're not having afternoon tea. Silly American. All right, the nuts and bolts of why I like Something Else by the Kinks. The music on here is engaging. Takes dance hall, probably from the Davies, upbringing and brings it into the 1960s. A whole different vibe compared to what had come before for the Kinks, but I still love all the music on this album. Something I've really never paid attention to before, which I probably should have, considering Ray Davies wrote Lola, was how good Ray Davies was writing about different characters, bringing the two sisters to life, the one that has a life the other one is envious about. That song got my attention more this time than times in the past. The whole thing about Donna and Afternoon Tea, the characters in Situation Vacant, and the whole song that he paints with Waterloo Sunset, lyrically and musically, has to be one of the best closing songs of an album in the 60s. A Day in the Life, maybe? The Waterloo Sunset is brilliant.
I would say as a lyricist, he is quick-witted, brutal, and he gets the job done. He can write a very catchy melody. A lot of these could almost be jingles. Without even knowing the songs, there are very catchy melodies. There are very strong hooks throughout all of these songs on this record. It was really a pleasant surprise.
Probably listened to this album 7 times since we spun the wheel. I've grown to appreciate Ray Davies as a lyricist. He just really embraced and went after trying to explain English life. I think I've learned more about basically English life and culture from his lyrics, just not on this album, but throughout. You know, you go to other albums of theirs as well, just splashing British culture all over the place.
And no slouch, Dave Davies goes 3 for 3 on his compositions on here as well.
Yes, easily accessible in the sense that they fit more of a regular song pattern, and they're not bitter as the Ray Davies songs would be. And I think they're separated well enough throughout the album where it can give you an appreciation of the dysfunction between Dave and Ray.
Death of a Clown has kind of grown on me. It was not one of my favorites. Fits in seamlessly right after David Watts. It's a great 1-2 punch to start the album. And, you know, what a cheeky idea of actually mourning the death of a clown, because it's the last thing you think of when you think of clowns, probably. So it's just a brilliant idea for a song. And, you know, Love Me Till the Sun Shines is just the opposite of Death of a Clown. It's a more rocking song. It's probably the most rocking song on the album.
All right, so an exercise I love to do with these albums, and especially since Jack mentioned about how these songs sound like jingles. What if we were to take a song title from something else by the Kinks and make it into a pilot episode for a TV show? Adam?
I am going to name my TV show David Watts, and I am going to have the famous British actor who we just recently lost, Terence Stamp, pull away from his more known villainous roles to play a cross between Jessica Fletcher and Monk. Terence Stamp just kind of is this hilarious gardener. I think the first episode I'm going to title it Death of a Clown, because that feels like a great episode. The twist on the show is that every time he solves a case, at the end, he sits down for afternoon tea and lights up a hairy rag. He discusses what happens. And sometimes the Kinks play a song. Situation Vacant.
Situation Vacant. A show where Sean Connery can't find a job, and his mother-in-law, portrayed by Gracie Fields, gives Sean grief for not being able to support her daughter, Julie Andrews. But each episode ends on a high note as they enjoy afternoon tea together.
Afternoon Tea. Afternoon Tea stars Ken Berry as a lovelorn man who has lost his fiancée, but he doesn't know exactly what has happened to her. Donna. As we find out during the pilot episode, Donna has been killed, but Ken Berry's not aware of this. So she is a ghost, and she is trying to make it known to him that he can still have his afternoon tea with Donna. But they got to keep it from their nosy neighbor, David Watts, who will be played by Ed Wynn. But David Watts has got himself a little secret, doesn't he, boys and girls?
Yes.
The ladies just can't seem to get through to him. Why is he being so coy? Maybe we'll never know. And Lily Tomlin is Donna, one of her earlier roles. Also, Edwin died in 1966, so it would be difficult to produce this in 1960.
All right, well, when we take all the songs on Something Else by the Kinks and average them out to a score of 1 to 10, me and Adam almost identical. 7.61 for Adam, 7.65 for me. Jack, a little bit lower with a 5.38 score to give the overall score of 6.88. Our favorite 3 songs, Waterloo Sunset, David Watts, and Two Sisters is our top 3. And End of a Season ended up being our least favorite song on Something Else by the Kinks.
Is it an album you need to listen to before your Waterloo sunset? The answer to that is an astounding yes. I think you absolutely need to hear it before you die, if not for just Waterloo Sunset, which is quite frankly one of the best songs ever written, and a great way to end the album. You need to listen to it for a couple other reasons. One, to better understand the UK and what it offers, and it's something that's a little bit counterculture to the Beatles and Zeppelin and the bands that get all the attention from the 60s. The only thing that I think would make Something Else better is if they would have included Autumn Almanac on the actual album. There is no Jam, there is no Blur without the Kinks and what they did.
I'll follow up Adam with a yes, you must listen to Something Else by the Kinks before you die. Like I said, I was a little surprised it was on here. It is not one of their most acclaimed albums. That always goes to Village Green or Arthur, it seems like. Really nicely put together album. Some great melodies, some great lyrics, and I think if you want to be introduced to a period of the Kinks that you might not be very familiar with, then Something Else by the Kinks is a great place to start. Oh, Sydney!
What? I was on level 28.
Why don't you ask Jack what he thinks?
Oh, yeah, Jack, what's good?
Straight up. After the first play, I really didn't think I was going to end up recommending this.
So, no.
Because it is very specifically not for an American audience. A bold move by a band that wants to break through in America, because each song has its own independent hook and feel and style. There's psychedelia on here. There's Baroque pop, crooning goofiness, digs at individuals. I'm going with yes.
I see the big Y-E-S.
It's surprising. It hooks you in. It brings you what you need. It has repeat listenability potential, and I say yes, the Kinks, Something Else by the Kinks, is an album that you should hear before you die.
I like how Sydney at the end here, she was like, oh, you guys all like an album for a change. I'm like, oh, we've liked a couple other albums before too, but Something Else by the Kinks, definitely 3 thumbs up, well worth it. Follow us along on Spotify for a new episode each Monday, on YouTube, subscribe, and we will give you a new episode every Monday as well. All right, time to spin the wheel, Jack. You are up.
The wheel has spun, and we're going back to jazz with renowned jazz bass player Charles Mingus and 1963's The Black Saint and the Sinner Lady.
Turn the mic on. Well, I'm going to shoot it.
Charles Mingus on the next Wheel of Albums.